We are live. We've got an author profile today, and just bear with me. We're setting him up, so he's going to join when he does. If not, it'll be a no-show. Can you hear me? Yes, I think you should be able to hear me. Okay. So this is being on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Okay, perfect. Okay, so titles. All right. There we go. Okay. And let's do the captions. We're going to do follow us on Twitter. What do you guys think about that one? Or there we go. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is just make sure I load up his that was not what I intended to do. Okay, here it is. While we wait for Shaun to show up, who's the author of this particular book study, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to read some of his work here. All right, so let's do that. So Shaun, here it is. And we're going to download that. No. Okay, so we've got the book cover. And let's see if I can. Okay, well. Still waiting for him, so let's see what's going on here. Interesting, okay. I do have a note from Shaun that he is joining. It's just okay. So we've got Shaun here, and his book that he's hopefully going to find his way online here is a book called Chaos in Love. And I haven't had the chance to actually read through the entire book. I do want to. When Shaun and I actually scheduled this session, I had intention to want to try and read it, but it's just one of these things about time and whether or not we have enough time to do what we want to do. So let me just jump back over to him and see what he has to say here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Okay, no, that's okay. But in the Facebook Messenger, you want to click on that link that I sent you because we're live on YouTube. You got to click on that link to come in. Okay, I can stay with you on the line, and if you like. Hey, don't worry about it. It's it's okay. This is a live event, so it's all right. Well, so you don't see it? Because I see that you said, sorry, my phone didn't alert me. I was sitting at my desk waiting. And before that, there's one that says live studio, and it's got a link. It says studio.restream.io guest. There's a link there. Oh, I can also email it to you. Okay. Well, let's try it another way. Why don't you open up your email, because you got a Gmail address, right? So why don't we do it that way as opposed to, and kind of, crappy on me. I should have been a little bit more prepared because, okay, so here we go. What is your email? Because of course I'm trying to think of it and I don't. Why is that not? There it is. Okay. Is it what? Sorry? I just sent it right now. Move this over here a little bit more. There he is. Is your sound working? Okay, your signal is really, really low.
Okay, I'm on the air now.
Perfect. Okay. I'm hoping that what I can do is trim the live event after the live event. So we're 13 minutes into it, and effectively what we could do, I think the way this works is that I can trim that kind of the first setting up part of it, right? As we kind of make our way through the. Oh, I lost you. Well, we're trying here. We're trying. There he is.
Okay. I was getting an echo, so I went to hang up the phone and it kicked me off, so I had to come back in.
Okay. Let's see if I can change the layout here a little bit better. Just wondering if I can make you a little bit more prominent. There we go. Well, isn't that's really nice, actually. I think, we got a 2x2 kind of.
All right.
Yeah. So can you see the screen?
Yeah, I see you fine.
Ah, perfect. Okay. So in today's live stream, we actually have Shaun, who's the author of an up and coming book, and it's a fiction book. It's about love. It's about life. It's about the ups and downs and trials and tribulations that I think that we all go to and go through to a certain degree. And I'm excited to have Shaun on this live stream. So Shaun, what can you tell me about yourself and your writing career and how you got to the point of deciding to write this particular book?
Okay, well, to start off, I'll talk about my writing. I wrote technical articles while I was in the Navy, U.S. Navy. And then I carried over. I got into Linux and I started writing technical articles on Linux. And some of them actually got translated into several languages. In particular, one where I talked about how to be a contributor to open source software without actually being a developer. Because I'm not a developer, but I'm technical and I support Linux. I know how to set it up, do servers, things like that. So I wrote the article because at the time that I wrote that article, I was working on a project called No Menu as the documentation manager for the project. And, I was like, this is a good way for me to tell people how they can do something when they're not that at that level of as a developer and things like that. And that actually got translated into, I think, 10 languages by different people all over the world. It was an open source document, so they were allowed to do that without my permission, and they did, and so that was fine. And then I worked for AT&T. I wrote a lot of white papers, technical articles, how-tos, and things like that. Um, and I did that for a year, and they weren't the only company I did it for, but they were the last one I did it for.
Right.
So
So let me ask you a question. I think as a new listener that may be a potential, Shaun fan, how like how did you make the jump from technical writing to something more fiction based and something that is a love story, something that has a lot of thematic elements rather than more of a straightforward kind of algorithm thinking. I mean, I'd be hesitant if I, like, how did you make that? Where did you get that depth to get into a fiction-based novel?
Well, that's what I was just about to jump to. I've always written little things here and there, fiction, things like that as well. And the idea for this book actually started with where I woke up with two songs playing in my head at the exact same time. My brain does things like that, and they actually have the same rhythm, same basic uh, song structure, tempo, all of that, and they're nearly identical in their the way they sound in some ways. And so my brain just kind of mixed them together. And I do believe I sent you the PDF of that. Um, and it's the two songs were both by Foreigner, and it was "Dreaming of a Girl Like You" and "I Want to Know What Love Is."
Mm-hmm.
So I played with it and put mashed it all up in lyrics wise. I not this music, just the lyrics, and I realized this is pretty good. And I was thinking, well, why would somebody would do this? The only thing I could think of was a wedding. So I kind of right then and there had the very ending of my book. They're getting married. But the whole idea, well, who is getting married and how did they meet? How was their life work? And so I created the characters, my two main characters, and I just kind of went from there. I'm what's called pantser in writing world uh, vernacular, which means I don't have a plan. I don't map out what's going to happen. I don't have an outline. I just have a basic idea of where I'm going to start and where I want to end. And that is the way I wrote it. And I was quite surprised how it came out.
Yeah.
So,
A pantser, that's for anybody that doesn't know. It's someone that creatively flies by the seat of their pants, right? And that's,
exactly.
yeah, I've tackled a novel myself called Will Freeman, and I think the thematic framework and the overall arc of the story is something that, well, I know it was in place for me, and then built out a framework and tried to build the various components. So I'm probably a hybrid of the two, but the initial part was definitely a pure creative endeavor, right? So we could get into creativity as a whole separate topic, but yeah, that's fascinating. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the main characters and their struggles, and I mean, don't give too much away. We want people to buy your book, right? Discover you and
about the characters without spoiling anything. It's real simple. David, my main male character, is an entrepreneur, and he has a very unique history. He didn't grow up under the best of circumstances. He did not have a positive father figure in his life. His actual father died when he was just an infant, and his stepfather was terrible. His stepfather wanted to delete his father's memory from his wife's life, and she pretty much followed that to a degree. I mean, she put most everything of importance aside out of his hands. But the one thing she couldn't get rid of was her son David, and so he went through, being harassed, and bothered, and blah blah blah. And so he grew up with that, and he, on his own, was determined to not be that kind of a person. So he he worked hard on himself and who he is, and developed a life philosophy that is not unique, but it's not really followed all that much.
Hmm.
That's that's what I
I'm intrigued about that philosophy. We're constantly at planksip. We're writing about philosophy and science as a media outlet and a publishing entity. So my ears perk up anytime I hear someone wanting to talk about a philosophy and or about philosophy, about wisdom, and about a virtuous life. And so, yeah, maybe you could elaborate on a few of the tidbits and the wisdom and the takeaways that made this character what he was. And I'm really interested in that.
Okay, well, here, hold on. I will. I got the manuscript that philosophy's in. Of course, my computer is being slow all of a sudden. Here we go. Not one thing, it's another with my life. When you need things to be smooth and simple, you know. Oh, now it was. Here we go. I'll read you the philosophy statement that he created, and well, I created actually, but it goes like this: his philosophy. I do not know everything, so to those who share with me their knowledge, I thank you. I do not possess all skills, so to those who share with me their skills and abilities, I thank you. I cannot live in this world alone, so to those who give me friendship, love, and support, I thank you. I cannot fight a war alone, so those who fight with me and protect me, I thank you. For all of you, I pledge to do for you what you do for me. Simple statement, but it says a whole lot. You
Mm.
know?
Yeah, the theme that repeats itself is one of gratitude and thanks and acknowledgement from the friends and people and the is around him, influences around him. So for me, the words of Cicero actually come into mind, with gratitude being the highest of virtues. And so I think that's really interesting. Really
Yeah.
interesting. Do you feel that type of gratitude as a virtue, or gratitude in general, is something that has actually worked for you outside of the novel? Are you finding that is something that helps you as a person, being thankful?
Yes. I mean, outside of the novel, I do try to follow this statement because if you can't acknowledge the people that help you out along the way and do the same for other people, then you're really just not doing anything that's going to help anybody or yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so I try to live by this statement, even though I didn't create this statement until I wrote the novel. But this is really how I feel about how people should be with each other. This can solve so many problems if we just accept that, it's our job to help others and to acknowledge and thank those that helped us. You know, and if we do that, the world would be a whole lot better off.
I think you touched on something interesting, is the idea of being thankful, but then also trying to being thankful of how people have affected your life, but then also also return that favor in some capacity. And I think just being mindful of trying to say, how can I help you, right? What can I do to help someone else?
Right.
Wasn't that part of kind of how we kind of hit it off in our initial conversation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like
Actually,
I just picked up the phone and I called you, and I could hear that you put a lot of effort into a manuscript, and I thought, man, how can I help this guy? And I mean, it's not a completely altruistic thing. I mean, here we are on the the planksip channel and everything like that, and as a brand, planksip's just building out. They're just being discovered, and but I think we're aligning. We're aligning in a way that we have mutually beneficial activities, and at the heart of it, there's nobody wanting to take advantage of another person. Do you know what I mean?
right. Well, so here's the thing. He's been taken advantage of more than he's been helped, but he doesn't
Oh.
allow that to distress from what he truly believes he should do as a person.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, he grew up with a lot of bad in his youth, and he was determined not to be like that, and that's why he is like he is. Now that part of the story isn't all that much covered, but that makes David who David is, and it's touched and it's talked about in the novel. But if I were to expand on it, the novel would get huge. So I work on the point from the point in time where he and his future love interest meet, It's not a great meeting, and I'll explain that in a moment. And and the book goes from that point. But now my female main character is Angela, and she is a Homeland Security agent.
Oh, okay.
And what causes them to meet is some property that David bought, had an old mining town in it, and it had been just abandoned for decades. Nobody had been in it. Nobody went there. It was up in the mountains of the Colorado Rockies, in not the most accessible place there was. Accessible place, I should say. I don't know why it's accessible. But because it was in an out of the way, inaccessible location, nobody bothered to go there. But at the time, we're talking the early 1900s here, when things were just really getting out of control in the world politics. I mean, we had World War One, and we were still on the verge of the Second World War, uh, and all of that. I mean, it was just a mess. But so the abandoned mining town had dynamite left behind in it, and it finally blew up over time. I mean, something finally triggered it. It was sweating dynamite, so it's going to explode the moment anything touches it, pretty much. Excuse me. And so that's what happened. So she gets to where he sent his crew ahead of him to go set up a base camp to investigate what happened, find out if there was any more possibility of something else exploding, that kind of thing. And he's got to drive up there in his pickup truck with a couple of air drones that are very specialized air drones. And so because they could have a modules attached to them, so they can do all sorts of different jobs. And so he's driving those up there. She beats him to the base camp that they're working out of, and she's, immediately being a government agent, thinks she's in charge. And he
Mhm.
walks in with, "No, you're not in charge. This is my operation. You're only here in case something comes up." And he lets her know that right off the bat. He doesn't mince words with her. And of course, she doesn't like that. And how it is when you got two people butt heads, and they're trying to get to the same point, but they're butting heads because one thinks she's in charge and the other one knows who's in charge. And it's not that they're really different from each other. They're just coming from a different direction, and that's so they butt heads immediately. And over the course of a few days, they realize they're really just fighting over nothing. They're both trying to get to the same point, and they would be better off working together instead of fighting, baiting each other and insulting each other and acting like So once they get to the point where they accept that they're actually trying to get to the same position, they start working together, and then that's when things start rolling. But of course, nothing comes easy. I mean, this is all things happen, things get out of control naturally. I mean, not because of them, not because what they're doing, just because of the situation. And eventually, another dynamite cache explodes. It is a lot bigger, and it does a lot of damage. And they're both just stuck in the situation of, okay, what do we do now? And they really start working together at that point, and that's where it just falls into place. And so once they get back to civilization, which was not easy, they had to have helicopters come in and get everybody out of there, and all the equipment that they had, and all of that had to be lifted out by helicopters because the road that they had driven up to, that they drove up in, was completely devastated. So they couldn't drive back down the mountain, and so there was that. But they start talking, and that's where and that's what it really hits. They just talk, and they start learning about each other. They both realize they have the same basic philosophies, the same basic beliefs, and so they start melding together and they become a couple eventually. But they
Mhm.
have to be very discreet about it because of the situation, her position, and he's one of those people who's pissed off so many bureaucrats over time. He's well known. He's got a reputation, and they don't hate him, but they just don't want to deal with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's I was going to ask you, did you find that you were borrowing a lot of um characteristics from people in your life? Did they represent any particular one person, or was it were the characters absolutely unique? How did you pull from your own life? And that could also include, for people that don't know that, I mean, you have a military background, and
Right.
you served in the military, and I think that must have come in helpful with just the logistics of helicopters and dynamite and all this kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about all that experience, that Shaun, and how you implemented that into your novel.
Okay. Well, my characters are not based on anyone in particular, not even
Mhm.
myself. I mean, the male character is nothing like me. If I had his life, I'd be a lot better off, believe me. But it's a combination of a lot of people I know. I've met so many people over time. Um, so I've been very lucky that way. You know, the nice thing about being in the Navy, you travel the world. You get to meet all sorts of interesting people, and you get to see different things that you normally would never get to see because you're just, most people don't really even leave their main area. Very few
Yeah.
people go beyond 200 or 300 miles from their hometown to begin with. And those who do, they stay within their home country for the most part. Like most people I know have been all over the United States, but have never been outside of the United States.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I've been to, all up and down the eastern or the European seaboard. My first ship was out of Norfolk, Virginia, so I went to Europe on my cruises there. Went to all sorts of really interesting places, and that was really educational because what I learned is there's more cultural diversity in Europe than I ever imagined.
Mm.
You know, you go from Spain to Portugal, or you go from say Norway to Germany, it's completely different the moment you cross the border. The
Yeah.
culture is completely different. The people are they completely different. They eat very different foods, and you don't think about these things until you actually see it and are there experiencing it. You know, but it's like when I went to Asia, Korea is very different from Japan. Singapore is very different from Korea. Um, the Philippines are different from everybody. Uh, Thailand is very unique country. They have a very unique culture. It's a beautiful place to visit.
Hmm.
But I got to experience these things because I was in the Navy. And, so many people don't understand. We're basically the same at a core level, but we're also very different at a cultural level, you know. And so what I get upset with a lot of people who don't understand cultural appropriation, maybe it's a cultural appreciation that you're attacking as appropriation. Because a lot of people want to try the foods, so they learn how to cook them, uh, or they like the clothes and the art and all that from different cultures. And people scream when people have an outfit from Japan, say. a kimono. That's probably a prime example. Most people don't understand the significance of the kimono in Japanese culture, but just but they can like and appreciate what it is, and you know, and why can't they just have it? Why can't they wear it and appreciate it for what it is? They're not stealing the culture; they're appreciating the culture.
Mm.
And so this divide that's going on is to me ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because people are actually honestly trying to learn things and and enjoy the things from other parts of the world. You know, but you know, like, I'm
Yeah,
not
that's very interesting.
afraid.
I have to say that I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a bit in my lifetime as well, but it's always, I mean, I think it would be a distinctly different experience as traveling. Even if I'm abrasive as trying to like distinguish myself from being a tourist, so to speak, right? There's still a distinct difference in traveling the world with the U.S. Navy as opposed to, going on tours, right? I mean, you just get to see things a little bit differently, I would imagine, and that's very exciting. We probably treasure those memories.
Oh, I always will, especially where I can remember doing, and I hate to say this because well, it's just what it is. Where I got stupid and did some very dumb things overseas, but had a blast doing it. You know, um, you have to, the thing is I never went in with the attitude I'm American, I'm, this, that, and the other thing. I never did that. Matter of fact, a lot of times when I was in another country, I would just go on a walk, get away from the mainstream tourist traps. If it was an island, I'd walk around the island. Uh, when I was in Portugal, I just barreled through, Lisbon and got away from all the tourist traps. Found some very unique places. Of course, I did when I was in Europe, I went to the museums and things like that. You know, but I
I
have
loved.
learned the best, yeah, but I have learned the best way to find out about the culture is get away from the tourist traps and just go meet the people.
Yeah, that's right. No, I mean, I have to make the point about Lisbon. The people seem so like polite and nice. I, I mean, more so than other places. Like they just seem so a little bit soft spoken, but just so polite and maybe that's the way people think of people. I've heard that about people. How they think of Canadians. We're so polite and stuff, but. I found that also in Lisbon. I don't. Did you feel the same way about the people in Lisbon?
Everywhere I went, people were friendly.
Okay.
The only country I honestly had a problem in was France, and that didn't last too long, thanks to a French sailor. Um, they don't, honestly, and I can understand why. They're not really fond of Americans in general,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because we kind of shafted them in history. Uh, so they've never really forgiven the United States for not helping them with their revolution. And I get that. They helped us. They helped us quite a bit. And when their revolution happened, we just got to look, right now, we just can't do it. And we didn't do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of, not, I mean, they appreciate us. Don't get me wrong there. But historically, they have never forgiven us for that. And I get that, and I understand that. So, so when a lot of people say the French are rude, no, the French are just still upset. Not rude. They're very nice people in actuality. You
Yeah.
know,
Well. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess it is what it is, right?
yeah, well, it's just life
I
in
mean,
general.
both of us are smarter than this to say that we don't broadly generalize about people. But I mean, I get your point. I get the nuance of it, and I was actually thinking of something called cultural determinism. Like you grow up in a particular country with certain base fundamental feelings about certain groups. And I think it's only later in life, and because of what you're talking about traveling, opening your eyes, seeing different cultures, that you finally get a appreciation and a tolerance and acceptance of different types of cultures. And that's important, I think, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these days I've kind of, because of the books that I'm writing, because this is the series, and this is only the first book of the series we're talking about. But in the course of the series, I start talking about Russia, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to. I had to research a lot about Russian culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, things like that, because it's all part of the storyline eventually. And wow, I didn't know Russia had such a deep, rich culture that we never talked about during the Cold War.
Yeah. Well, basically, what I want to do is we want to start thinking about wrapping this up. We've got a good solid 5 minutes left. And so if there's anything that you'd like to convey to the people that are tuning in, and I can see that it's not a great number of people, but Shaun, I want to thank you for tuning in, and we can make this a semi-regular sort of event. Feel free to come back, and but on that note, why don't we just kind of summarize, or anything that you think is a main from the book, or from Shaun in general as an author, that you'd like to share with the audience?
The main underlying theme in my book, from start to end, is about communication. Communicating with people, being clear with people. Because that's the main problem we have in society. We're not talking to each other.
Right.
And we're just making a lot of assumptions that are not good. And we need to change that. And the best way to change that is to communicate and talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And allow others to talk. There's just so many bad things happening, and the only way we're going to get past it is to talk. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, on that note, why don't we just leave it? And I want to thank you for joining, and let's do this again. Really, let's do this again soon. I appreciate your time. Okay, Shaun?
No problem, and thank you. I enjoyed doing this, and yeah, I look forward to doing it again.
Right on. Okay, thanks.
You have a great day, and whoever out there,